Well, goddamn, you're a conservative? I really thought that there weren't any conservatives left in the United States of America. Obviously, I'm being a little bit hyperbolic on that one, but truly, I feel like we don't really have a right-wing movement. There really isn't a conservative movement. It's been really replaced by something else. But this video is not about that. This video is about, let's put aside whether the one or both of these two shootings that happened recently regarding ICE, let's put aside whether the shoots were legitimate or not. If you're conservative, pretty much whoever you trust in the media has undoubtedly been telling you that the shoots were justified. They have different angles and how they're presenting it, oh, the first shot and he was fearful of his life or whatever. Let's put all that aside. Everybody's talking about that. Let's talk about something else, right? There's something very, very important I think a lot of people are missing, especially on the right. If we ignore whether the shootings were justified or not and focus purely on the government's action in this situation, as a conservative, if you really are a conservative, you should be outraged. You should be calling your local representatives and saying they need to do something about this. This is out of control. You don't stand for this. This is not what you voted for. If they don't do something, you're not voting for them. You should be standing up, using your rights as a citizen of the United States of America to push back against the Republican Party. Again, we're not even taking into consideration whether the shoot is valid or not. You think the shoots were valid? Great. You think the shoots were murder? Great. Irrelevant. We're not talking about that, right? What we're talking about is the fact that an American citizen was killed by federal agents. Even if it was fully justified, the fact that our government instantly, top-level people in our government instantly get online and start calling these people terrorists and start lying and saying this guy was brandishing his firearm and he came to do maximum damage and just making stuff up, just straight up insulting American conservatives, right? They are simply saying, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, Kash Patel, they're saying conservatives are dumb as hell, and no matter what's on video or on tape, if you're 100 years old, we can just ignore the evidence and we can just say whatever. Again, let's say all the evidence points to justified shooting. It does not show him brandishing his firearm. The claim about him looking to do maximum damage is not backed by any evidence whatsoever, any solid evidence anyway. The only evidence is the fact that he had a gun and 2 clips, right? So anyone that goes to a protest with a lot of bullets, if you believe that that means they're looking to do damage, if that evidence moves you, then I don't know what to tell you. All the right-wing protests with AR-15s that are obviously not concealed, right? They're out in the open. And in fact, the guns are a big part of the protest in terms of they're not just, I'm a Second Amendment person. Wherever I go, I carry my AR-15. So I'm going to protest, so I bring my AR-15. No, they're intentionally expressing their freedom to bear arms, right? That is part of when I go to the protest, I'm bringing a sign and I bring my AR-15, right? This guy was just concealed carrying, like many conservatives do every day, right? He carries his gun wherever he goes, presumably, like many people do that, right? He wasn't brandishing it. He didn't show it to anyone. He didn't make any threats. They don't have any evidence of him acting like a terrorist. They don't have any evidence of him brandishing his firearm. They don't have any evidence of him showing a firearm, right? So, and the thing is, I'm not a partisan, right? 99.9% of people who talk about politics, they're partisans, right-wing or left-wing partisans. I'm not a partisan, right? I am not here to fucking defend any left-wing people. And I don't have a lot of respect for left-wingers in this country, to be honest, right? I think the left-wing movement, there really isn't really much of a movement. I think it's a joke. I think a lot of their influencers are very naive. They're in a little bubble, right? I think it's far worse on the right, but I don't have a lot of respect. Brian Charlie Cohen, no respect. What is it? I forgot. David Pakman, no respect. That's someone I had respect for a short while until I discovered how dishonest he is. Young Turks, no respect, right? So I'm not a partisan. I'm not here to defend left-wing media, right? So because I'm not in a bubble, I'm actually capable of seeing an angle where you could make an argument that it's justified. I don't think it's a strong angle. I don't agree with it. I strongly disagree with it, but I can conceive of it. That's the thing. A partisan, you can't even conceive of how your political opponents might have a point, right? But I could see a situation where people focus on he was disarmed, and I don't want to get into that stuff because again, we're not talking about the shoot's justified, but I want to make a point. People say he was disarmed, so it's murder because he was disarmed. But in the video, you clearly hear them saying he has a gun or where's the gun or something like that. And the same left-wing people who would say that he was disarmed, like very, very definitively disarmed, so why did they kill him? That's murder. Those are the same people who correctly, in my view, refer to these ICE agents as buffoons, untrained, many of them, right? So these untrained buffoons are, in this moment, acting like professionals, right? So when the guy removes the gun, he clearly communicates, I got the gun, I have the gun, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, they're professionals, right? So communication's on point, right? buffoons about everything else, but in this moment, you expect that in a chaotic scene, one guy pulling a gun, you expect that everyone there knows that he doesn't have the gun, right? You've all of a sudden forgotten how buffoonish these guys are. So you can't, for some reason, imagine that these buffoons, like they don't know what's going on. And you know, maybe somebody said there might be a gun misfire or something like that. And then, you know, again, you said they're buffoons. So what would buffoons do? They'd panic, right? Oh no, he's gonna kill us. And then you start firing. So I could see a situation where they honestly thought that their lives were in danger. They hear the gun go up, like if a misfire happened, right? They hear the gun go off and they're new. They see all these people that hate them and whatever. And then they freaking panic like, oh my goodness, he's shooting. And then they just instinctively. Now, I think even that being the case, I have a lot of problems with that. Even in a situation where it's like, okay, a reasonable person might have thought their lives are in danger. I have a lot of problems, but I could see it at least. Ask pretty much anyone in left-wing media to present an argument to steel man the argument that it was a justified shooting. And I think none of them will be able to do it. They're just going to escalate their murder. That's not who I am, right? Even though I believe this was an unlawful unaliving of this person, I'm going to get into the reasons why, because that's not what this video is about. I can still fathom a scenario where someone might think it's a justified shooting, right? But again, regardless of your position on the shooting, as an American citizen, for you to be not absolutely outraged, calling up your representatives about not only them lying about an American citizen, just making stuff up. Think about it. If the highest ranking people in our law enforcement are just openly and blatantly lying, like, what hope do you have as a conservative when you get pulled over by the police or you get involved, something with law enforcement, like things happen, right? Somebody falsely accuses you of something that you didn't do. If law enforcement all across this country are seeing the President of the United States, the top levels of law enforcement, just blatantly lying and getting away with it, that's going to encourage them to do the same thing. So what happens when you have an issue? You have a police chief that's lying. Maybe you're in a liberal area, right? It goes both ways. You're in a liberal area and you got your Second Amendment shirt on or a Trump shirt on, and you know, someone makes up a lie and said you try to kill someone or whatever, and no evidence, but the police chief just says, make stuff up, they plant a gun on you, whatever. Like, our government, federal government, is giving a permission structure for law enforcement to basically, and I know people say they already do this, but if you think they're doing it already, what do you think this is doing? This is gonna make it less, or are you gonna make it more? Let's think logically. This is gonna make it more. There's gonna be more injustice, right? And it could end up being your son or your daughter ending up getting caught up in something, and this new generation of law enforcement that is being inspired by our government right now. What happens when your family member ends up in prison for a very long time, right? You got a partisan judge, partisan police chief, and they're all looking up. Like, if the top level people are just saying whatever, why would they be better than their leader? Lead by example. So if you don't have a big problem with this and you're not taking action and you're not ready to protest, then number one, don't tell anyone that you're a patriot, because you can't be a patriot and you stand for this, right? Again, irrelevant to this discussion that this guy got killed and whether it was justified or not, right? Because even if it was 100% justified, that doesn't justify calling him a terrorist and saying he was brandishing his firearm when he didn't. So imagine this guy goes to the protest and he says to the ICE officers, I'm gonna kill you, you guys are gonna die. I wanna see how much officers I can kill today, right? So he's making threats that he's gonna kill them, right? Does a sudden movement and puts his hand in his jacket, right? Any reasonable police officer would think this guy's about to pull out a gun and kill him. So they might decide to pull out their guns and use lethal force, right? And I think they would have a good potential case that they legitimately fear for their lives, right? Even if that's what happened, right? So a good situation for a self-defense argument. To then go and say he brandished his firearm when he didn't, right? Even though he reached in his jacket, like that definitely, like, oh, you gave a justification for lethal force. But the justification you gave was putting your hand in your jacket, not brandishing a firearm. You never did that. How does the president and top-level law enforcement get to say this? And the American conservatives, where's the town halls that are getting flooded with conservatives saying to the Republicans they voted for, like, what the fuck is going on? You need to put a stop to this now, otherwise we're voting you out. This is unacceptable. This is America, right? And we're Republicans, we're conservatives, we believe in freedom, we believe in the Constitution. And having a government acting in a tyrannical way where you just, smearing citizens who committed no crime, right? It's like, it's so dishonest, man. I can't even say that because they say, oh, he brought a gun to protest, because I think Kash Patel said it like it's a crime. And then the other game they play is obstructing. Let's just say the guy's not a criminal. Like, he hasn't robbed banks. He's not a scam artist. Like, he's not a felon. He hasn't been convicted of any crimes. Even if you believe he's committing crimes, he's not a criminal. He's not some thug, right? Guy's a nurse, right? He works for a living, right? So the idea that a private citizen going to a protest gets killed and then the government goes and lies about it, and the average American conservative is just like, F around and find out, right? I got this buffoon, what's his name, Ricky Manor, posting memes about how funny this is. Oh, how is ICE doing? Oh, they're pretty good, he said. I guess, I don't know if he made it or somebody else made it, but it's funny, right? An American citizen gets killed, and believing that it was justified, the government then goes and assassinates the character of this guy that they killed, right? Good, kill. And they just walked away and left her there. I watched a video where the police were in a shootout with some disgusting thug. They were in a shootout. They hit this guy. Immediately, they went to render aid. They didn't just walk away. They immediately went to render aid. One of them, I think, wanted to put handcuffs on. The other guy was like, no handcuffs, just clear them, make sure there's no weapons on them, get them the med kit. That's a thug getting treated better than this woman who could view her as hysterical. She was definitely blocking traffic. She shouldn't have been doing that, right? You don't just get to block traffic. Right? We can justify it and say, you know, she's protesting or whatever. But that's a separate topic from the fact that you can't just block traffic, right? But all that is irrelevant. She also wasn't a thug. She didn't threaten anyone. You could say it looked like she might be trying to run them over, right? But again, compare her to a guy who's shooting at the police and they shoot him and they render aid immediately. Her, they just walk off and leave her in the car. Are you okay with that, an American citizen? The other thing we need to talk about, how can you be a conservative and be okay with the fact that Kash Patel says you're not allowed to bring a gun to a protest? After years and years of conservatives going to protests with their AR-15 fully decked out like they think they're G.I. Joe, pressing their Second Amendment, now you have this conservative administration, supposedly, you believe it is, I don't believe it is, and you have Kash Patel saying that you're not allowed to bring a gun to, and this guy is at the top of law enforcement, not allowed to bring a gun to a protest. And somehow that doesn't result in a major backlash, like there's not any protests coming from the right. Where's the right wing? Because remember, the left, a bunch of soy boys, right? Where's the tough, strong, conservative men out in the streets specifically expressing their Second Amendment in this moment because they're like, don't play with us. We love what you guys do with the border. We love how you took care of the wokeness and you're protecting the unborn. We love all that good stuff. But don't fucking play with our gun rights, right? We're not your friend. You work for us, right? You work for us. We're your boss. You can't mess with or be talking in a very loose manner about our ability to carry, to protest, to the store, whatever, where in states where we're allowed to do that, right? Where are these strong conservative men who actually stand for something, right? The liberals, they're hysterical. They're just talking about woke stuff. They don't understand how the world works. They're just so naive and they believe in this utopia, everything free, right? So where's the serious grown-up conservative men who are outraged about what Kash Patel said and are out in the streets right now with their guns saying, fuck you, Kash Patel, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, we love what you did, but we're not your bitch. We're your boss. So you better get yourself in order and realize that we put you in office and we can take you out of office, right? So don't be talking no anti-gun bullshit. One of them, I think Kristi Noem was saying something about having a gun with 2 clips or something like that, as if like that's a problem. I heard another Republican politician say something like, fully loaded 2 pistols, semi-automatic. Like, what the fuck does it matter that it's a semi-automatic? Like that's like a anti-gun liberal talking point. How the fuck do you as a Republican get to say this to your voters unless your voters don't stand for shit? Not one to me. Only if your voters are full of shit could you say something like that and not have your career being ended. This is exactly, many people voted for Republicans because of, this is what they claimed. They think that Biden's going to take their guns away. Now you have the federal government talking real spicy about where you can and cannot carry your guns. And same people who would vote for Donald Trump, who I will not characterize because I know conservatives don't agree with me on Trump, but regardless, you would vote for him to stop Biden from coming in and taking the guns. And now they're just openly talking about semi-automatic this and you shouldn't carry guns to protest. And the fact that they can say that and not get a major backlash, like look at what's happened. The left right now in this moment are being the stronger ones, right? ICE is all over, taking people, going against what the left believes in. And they took to the streets. They're out there in the freezing cold. We got a major storm, single-digit temperatures, and supposed all those soy boys are out there in the streets sacrificing for what they believe in, right? And in this very same moment, the right wing is allowing the government to be talking spicy about gun rights, and they're just like, like what? So listen, I want you to also understand that if you think it's about people carrying guns to protest, which that's insane that if that you have a problem with that as a conservative. If you think it's about people effing around and finding out because they went to some BS protests and getting involved in obstructing law enforcement and they found out, if that's what you think, I want you to understand you don't have to actually go to a protest to experience what these people have experienced. There have been some citizens who were just minding their own business, driving down the street. One guy got his door blown in, like explosives. They came to his house with a SWAT team. And why did they do that? The guy, I stopped abruptly in front of him, causing an accident. And then this is the thing, everything is obstruction. So like I said, if you support them just making stuff up, this is what they can do. They can cause an accident and then say you were obstructing and then use that to authorize a SWAT team coming to your house while your wife and kids are home, blow down your door. This is something actually happened. Blow down your door, right, with drones, and then have influencers recording it on video so they can post up on their social media accounts, right? Are you okay with that? Shooting was justified in your view. Okay. That being said, are you okay with this? Anyway, guys, this is the Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Unfortunately, I think that majority of conservatives are not gonna really take this video seriously. They're not gonna really, reflect about what I talked about. Because unlike left-wing media telling you how Trump is doing horribly, most conservatives love Trump. They would vote for him again. They think he's one of the best presidents in their life, right? So you could put aside what CNN is talking about. Oh, the polls, whatever. The polls that are bad are mostly people that never liked him in the first place. The independents voted for him for whatever reason. They're not Trump people, right? They were afraid of woke or whatever it is. They never really liked Trump. They have issues with Trump, but they were like, it's better than the alternative. Those people are the ones who are upset with him. They never liked him in the beginning, right? But I think he's still at historic highs. I think he's at 80% approval, right? So 80% of Republican voters love Trump, then there's no way they're gonna take seriously anything I said in this video, right? They're gonna make comments in the comment section, make fun of me, say I'm stupid, this video is dumb, you don't get it, you're a moron. Stop watching MSNBC, you're watching too much liberal media. Like, totally ignore the fact that I call out liberal media and left-wing media. I say CNN and MSNBC are garbage, they're one of the worst in the business, but they can't even process that. They're still gonna say, oh, you're watching liberal media, right? Just like, if you still love Trump and you would vote for him again, there's no way that you're gonna actually sit and think about anything I had to say in this video. Your view, I'm a moron, and there's nothing in this video worth your time to even think about because my video is dumb. I'm dumb, I'm an idiot. I just don't know what I'm talking about. You got better things to do than spend time arguing with a moron. Got it. A moron who completely called exactly your response. Okay.